Good day to you. This is Anagalactic bringing you a follow-up to today's lecture on February 10th, a Friday in 2023. We're covering the curves that you see over here, and the top one is from 250 years earlier, rounding it off. The top one is Rogerio Josip Bošković's force curve. The bottom one is the Wikipedia article on nuclear force, and it shows the relationship between two protons. Obviously, Bošković could not have known about protons. In fact, he did not know directly about particles. That was only in the 20th century that the particle limit of the universe was broken open to view, to understanding. And what emerged from that, due to the work of Rutherford and Bohr and others, is that the configuration of the atom was finally figured out. And it was figured out to a threshold which was a quantum jump from anything prior. What emerged from that and continues to be the best optimization of what we've discovered before and since, the best optimization for a layman to understand what particle physicists have discovered about the inner space of the universe, the building blocks of the universe. We have found two particles, exactly two particles. That's extremely important to ingrain that into your mind, and I expect you to do so if you intend to follow the lectures to come over the next 3 months. You're going to need to start to see reality the way it actually is. And the standard model of particle physics is not a physical model. It's a mathematical model where they're forced to refer to particles. They actually have to, so this is not a criticism, but it is a critique. Because in science, it doesn't matter what your reputation is or who discovered what, or the credentials behind it, or the instrumentation that you used, or the billions of dollars that went into your discovery. If it doesn't make sense, then it's out the door. And the standard model, let me just tell you something about what is a standard model today. No, I won't. I think you know what I'm going to say. You do not want to believe in a model. That was done for natural selection. A whole model, my God. All of the children's classrooms, as I was being raised, showed a model of the evolution of life on Earth from amoebas to dinosaurs to man, with monkeys in between, yeah. And it all, oh my goodness, what a perfect model. That model has been 100% disproved. And there are at least 2 other models that followed that disastrous model, which has never actually been completely ejected from the classroom. That's a crime. But we're not going there. That's emotional. I don't want to get emotional. What we're doing is something equally important. The origin of man is an important topic. But you can't do everything at once. We're trying to get the origin of the universe. We want to know where it comes from, no matter what that might mean. And by George, we're so determined to get that, we'll say anything. We'll think anything. We'll try to prove things, and if we're just close, we'll say we proved it anyway. And that's been the story of modern physics for the past 70 to 100 years. Grappling in the dark with stone knives and bearskins. We want the solution. We're well sick and tired of the problems. And as much as I admire Dr. Sabine Hassenfelder, who is basically my heroine, yeah, heroine, look it up, it has another meaning, it's the feminine form of hero. Even though she's my heroine, she has absolutely no effect. She's no effect, except to entertain dunderheads like me. Oh, good. She's creaming them in the face with pies. She certainly is. Creaming all these guys in the face with pies. I love it. They deserve it. They need it, but it doesn't fix it. They just wipe the cream custard out of their eyes, flip her off, and head right to the United States Bank. They are absolutely satisfied with their lies, and they are lies. The standard model of particle physics relies on a forced system due to the limitation of linear algebra, whereby when you get down to the subatomic level, you have no other word except particle. You're down to one word. And I can tell you as a programmer, you're screwed now. That's why they call quarks particles. That's why they have the pi on and the glue on. Oh, well, it's Greek, so it must be something you can't understand. Exactly right. If after you hear a 3-hour lecture on the subatomic particle soup, and, any questions, and you raise your hand, yeah, what's your question? I don't understand the goddamn word you just said. You're the only one in that room who gets an A+. Because that's exactly what just happened. Not exactly, though. Not exactly. I make fun, and it's necessary to take two stances. You look at the situation the way it is, it makes no sense, it's ridiculous, you can't explain it, and therefore you don't understand it. Well, that's harsh. But it's true, but it's not the whole truth. The other part is being stuck with linear algebra, just crippled with straight line logic, which is all science is allowed to use. That's all we have is the miserable little creatures we are, just swarming on this planet. The only ray of light we have into the universe is with straight lines. That's all we can do is see straight lines. That's not true. That's not true. So, yeah, this is profound. It's miraculous. It's the cutting edge. It is evolution. This is the next step in human evolution. It wouldn't hurt to just give a little comment on that so you don't think I'm completely out of my mind. Now that we know that there's no such thing as biological evolution, well, I guess we can throw out the word evolution then as far as humans go. No, absolutely not. The word evolution is correct. It's just that it's not DNA. You can't break into that code. Nobody ever has. And these people that they say that they can fuck with the DNA and make things come out the way God did not intend, that's okay. They can. This is called superpositional logic. It's where you've reached a limit in the system that you have, but you're looking at a system that's way more coherent than you're capable of understanding. And so when you, with your crippled mind, because you're crippled with sticks, all you can do is see in a straight line. That's all you can do. Well, that can't possibly be enough to get at the heart of the universe. That's obvious to anybody of any age. Unless they're coerced into saying otherwise, perhaps by money, by funding. Well, then you're liable to jump on that bandwagon because you'd like to have a big house and a big car, wouldn't you? Of course you would. There's nothing wrong with that. And that's part of the superposition of life, is that we are emotional creatures who are doomed to death on this planet. This is hell. But if I left it off at that, I'd be Ebenezer Scrooge. I'd be the Grinch. I could be worse than that. Well, I don't leave off at that. But this is one of the limitations of human language. We can't even speak to each other in the mode that we need to speak to each other. We can only speak in binary logic. And that's split. There's also good and evil, which is not binary. But all emotion is based on good and evil. Well, you could say good and bad, or pain and pleasure. Well, those aren't binary. Oh no, 99.9% of life is non-binary logic. It's irrational. That's called irrational. And that has to do with love and faith and hope and all those things you might read in the nursery rhymes that your whoever is lording it over you, forcing you to swallow shit that you don't even want to hear. Mother Goose rhymes about Jesus and the prophet. Yeah, believe a man. That's right. That's a good idea. Believe another person, someone that looks like you. Jesus had 2 eyes, okay? So you want to believe... Now, I'm not saying don't believe Jesus. And I'm not saying don't believe the prophet. What I definitely am saying is don't take any second-hand information about those men. If you want to know what Jesus or the prophet said, you go right to Jesus and the prophet. Well, good luck, because they've been dead for centuries. So that's why we don't do religion and science, because we have another onboard system called rational logic. This was blueprinted into us by the Creator. And the Creator of the earth and the universe has been proved to exist by science. And if you don't know that, that's okay, because no one around you knows it either. And so you're safe. But I'm a scientist. I'm ruthless. I'm like an American Marine drill sergeant who's a sadist. In order to get you to heaven, I'll beat you to death. Sorry, that was genetic. That's my Scottish Presbyterian background boiling up. I'm so sorry. So, science is serious. It's not a game. These guys like Brian Greene and Neil deGrasse Tyson, they both exhibit 2 completely different personality profiles as they lie in their teeth to you. But Neil deGrasse Tyson thinks he's the drill sergeant. Not when I'm in the same room with him, he's not gonna be. And Brian Greene, I'm the Gerber baby telling you about the elegant superstring universe. And then off from the side, you don't see her coming in, Dr. Sabine Hassenfelder. Here's Neil deGrasse Tyson. You goddamn little brats. If you mention God again, I'll kick your ass. And next to him is is Brian Greene saying, the superstring is elegant. Isn't atheism wonderful? And while they're both, one of them's barking at you. And this is the good cop, bad cop scenario. But what they don't count on is superpositional logic of God. And in from the side comes a Hadamar Gate person that they didn't even do their homework, so they don't see her coming. Dr. Sabine Hassenfelder has 2 gigantic cream pies. I'm sitting there in the front row trying not to look at her, trying to suppress my laughter. Neil deGrasse Tyson is looking at me, I'll kick your ass. And Brian Greene is saying, kiss my ass. And they don't see her coming. Smash! Smash! And then I just pee in my pants, fire up a joint. Sabine and I go off together with her husband and 2 kids. So it's not like, oh, I have my hand around her husband's shoulders. Your wife. And he's like, I know. And meanwhile, Neil deGrasse Tyson, the big, hard-ass atheist, and Brian Greene, the pansy-ass atheist, both of them paid by the government in gold bullion. You think they're going to care for long? They just got laughed at by a pothead and some German bitch. They don't care. They're surviving. And they don't care who they kill. All the children that they lie to, they'll face God over it, I'm confident, but They could not care. If they don't care about Dr. Sabine, they sure as F-ly duty don't care about me. So this graph over here, as we were saying in the last lecture, to close, is the graph of infinity. Well, let's just slow down. I said it's the graph of reality, the curve of infinity. Let me show you a couple of things before we go on with our next totally professional broadcast. I got a new shirt here. It obviously doesn't really work, but it looks better than wearing a sackcloth, you know? I want you to look at something on this graph. And notice very carefully that it is a 2D linear graph, so you know it's fucked up somewhere. But where it's not fucked up is that curve. That curve transcends the linearity, and I'm going to show you the magic that's embedded in the Bošković curve. This is the strong force, but it's way more than that. It's what happens at the closest range between any two particles in the universe. Any two particles, when they get close, exhibit this curve in relationship to each other. But what does it mean? I want to translate that into another geometric realization so you'll have more than one perspective. You're going to need to learn, and I'm going to be teaching you very carefully by example, that in order to understand quantum mechanics, and therefore to understand the structure of the universe at the smallest scale, which has a direct effect on light and on gravity, our only tools for understanding heaven there's the only two tools are the proton and the electron. We have to understand gravity, that's the proton, and we have to understand light, that's the electron. This shows the relationship between those two. Now, I did mention it, but then I quickly backtracked, because you don't want to give both perspectives at the same time. That can be confusing. But this is not just the relationship between two protons. It's also the relationship between the nuclear core, that is the nucleus of the atom, and the first atomic shell for a single electron. And what this shows is a right angle. This is the source of the spherical Pythagorean theorem, which I'll be talking about for the next 3 months, because this is the basis of the new geometry. There is orthogonality in spherical space. No one has ever known that, but I know it. And I'm showing it to you now in its simplest form, although there's another perspective on this that's even better. Using a spherical diagram, I can show you the orthogonality between the spherical surface and the radial line. The radial line and the spherical surface are perpendicular, and Albert Einstein proved that. Max Planck showed that that's a reciprocal relationship that's also orthogonal. I discovered the orthogonality in the quantum numbers, and you're looking at it right there. That shows the orthogonality in spherical space, which is real space, which no one has ever used. But this graph actually shows a right angle in spherical space based on motion, not on what we think in our brains as earth-bound, 3 trillion-celled, extremely crippled animals. But this is the gateway. This is the gateway. Shit. Oh, God help me. God help me. Oh, he did. That's why we pray. It's because the graph is over here. It's not, pointing at a blank wall when I do this. I just can't handle it. But this is a right angle that is not 90 degrees. But if you look hard, you'll see the right angle. Look at that median line that's horizontal, and as the proton comes in from infinity, and then you have a snapshot. It's been wandering in from infinity, and it comes in, and you can see that blue line, which is the path of the proton coming in, is absolutely parallel with the median line. Oopsie daisy, no it's not. Why is it not parallel? Is there a word for what it is if it's not parallel? Yeah, it's asymptotic. But there are no actual 90-degree right angles anywhere. That's a linear artifice. The orthogonality of two straight lines exists nowhere in the universe. But the universe does us one better. To us, it looks like two straight lines can be made orthogonal. But the universe never does that. Instead, it does this. This is the replacement for a 2D graph in spherical space. But to see it, you have to turn it inside out. Well, that's what Albert Einstein did with time-space. He turned space inside out to get at time. We're essentially going to undo what Albert did because that's a huge mistake that he was forced to. But I want you to see very clearly now, and I'm going to show it to you to make sure you get it. Where is the right angle in that graph? Do you see it? Okay, the first part of the right angle is the horizontal line coming in from the right. It's not quite a straight line, but since there is no such thing as a straight line in spherical space except on the flight of the photon, this is almost a straight line. As it goes off to infinity this way, it just, oops. As it goes off to infinity this way, it just stays really close to the median line, just gets closer and closer according to Zeno's arrow, and never touches the median line for all eternity. Well, that could be better stated if you knew anything about spherical space. That's what I'll be teaching you. So that's one of the two straight lines. It's not straight, but come on. Doesn't it look like it's getting as straight as it can? It's trying to be a straight line. It just can't because nature says it can't. Well, we don't have anything to do with nature. That's exactly what Brian Greene and the evolutionists and Neil deGrasse Tyson and David Attenborough have been teaching us for decades. You don't have to worry about God or the creator or design or intelligence because you have calculus. And then we just go, yeah, I guess I'll just spend $100,000 of my parents' money and waste 16 years of my life. You're not wasting it if you get a mansion. Go ahead. It's not what we do here. We're after the truth. Because we believe in an eternity of time ahead. So we really would like to get as much done now down here on this miserable goddamn planet so that when we die and wake up on the other side, since that's the only rational thing that could possibly happen, we'd kind of like to lessen the brunt of what we face when we're in a bigger, happier realm, we trust. Otherwise, why are we doing anything at all, right? So, one of the two orthogonal lines is that median line. So, the flight of this proton, as it's approaching another proton, it comes in real fast, and then it slows down. Now, that's shown as the dip in the curve. It slows down, and Here's the proton waiting for it over here, and it slows down, slows down. Should have this reversed. Oh, God. So here's the proton way over here. Just picture it way over there. And now here's the proton. Zzz, it slows down. Oh. And then it stops. That's the bottom cusp of that curve. It can't approach anymore. It's been stopped by a repulsive force. Protons repel each other. And if it doesn't have enough impetus, it starts to go back. And it slows down. Then it drifts back, and then it settles at a Lagrangian point in subspace. It really does. This describes every electron orbital shell. That's why they settle into a spherical shell. It's because of this curve. That's only half the curve, though. Now, here comes a real fast proton. I'll just do this in reverse. I can't, okay? So the proton is approaching. Okay, I'm doing it right. Or, no, I'm not. Because I'm a monkey. Fuck. I'm sorry. So here comes a proton. It's slow, 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 slow. But it reaches that cusp. It has just enough impetus, relativistic velocity, that it reaches that cusp and goes just a little past that 1 mark on the range in femtometers. It reaches the bottom and teeters over. And then what happens? It goes like this. It accelerates. It picks up speed. It picks up speed. And then it picks up speed infinitely. And it goes to infinite speed. That's where it shoots off the top. It goes to infinite speed at 0.8 femtometers from the other particle. And it shoots off into infinite speed. It came from infinite distance, and it reached the cusp approaching the other proton, got sucked in. It was being repelled, until it reached 1 femtometer. And then it started approaching again and shot to light speed. Or beyond. Maybe infinite speed. You can't tell from this graph. Well, you can't tell where the proton came from either. There are 2 infinities on this graph. Going to the right is infinite distance. It's the infinite spatial universe. Linearly. Straight line to infinity. Spatially. The one shooting off the top at the left is infinite speed. But you know that there's a trick there because speed is a relationship. That's not a unary unit. Distance is. Because of the limitation of our minds, we think that distance is linear. That seems to work. It does until you reach this limit. And then it doesn't work. Because you can no longer approximate. You're trying to see reality. This is reality. Horizontally is infinite linear spatial separation. That's spatial linear infinity. Okay? And the proton's relationship to that is asymptotic. It's never on that line. It never touches the straight line that we use. It's always not on the line spatially. So our method of seeing light from a distant star, obviously it's all we have. We think we're seeing in a straight line. That's not enough to know. You're actually not doing that. This graph shows you what you're actually doing. You're taking an approximation on a linear spatial separation by using your 2-eye vision system with which we're born. But everything changes when this particle gets close to another proton. when it reaches the cusp at the nadir, that's called a minimum on this graph. If it has enough impetus, that is relative velocity, to cross that cusp, it enters a different domain that is non-spatial. It's event space. It's time. And so the vertical asymptote is time. And the horizontal asymptote is space. We've linearized them both. Albert Einstein delinearized them both to get hyperbolic curved spacetime. That is a mistake. You can't do that. He made a mistake. Why? What is his mistake? He curved them together. What I discovered in 2022 is that the correct solution is to linearize either space or time. And you can only do that with spherical geometry. And that'll be the subject of the next lecture. And that's 31 minutes. We'll be right back. Stay tuned.